Yo, Natsu here. So, how are you everyone? Let me present to you the new What If, which is going to be quite something, I'll just say it like that. If you're asking yourself, what does he mean with the title? Well, I'll explain now. But first, I present to you what if Deku could learn. First of all, his power is going, well, the way me and the few people who helped me decided to make it. Deku, it's not learn in the sense of like, he can do math and learn about that. No, he can learn how to use powers. So, let's just take the example of Bakugo. He won't just be able to ask Bakugo, what do you do for your quirk? I get mad, and my sweat that's like nitroglycerin basically explode. No, what Deku needs to know is, how does the quirk works? How does the power create itself? So for Bakugo, again to take the example, Deku would need to think, so his sweat glands on his palm, what they do is, instead of creating water to cool itself, what it creates is the chemicals, a chemical that is closer to nitroglycerin than sweat. Then it actually expulses it out like if it was normal sweat, but doesn't explode right away. There's a catalyst to actually do it. That catalyst is a small amount of, when Bakugo stresses his hands, most likely something like, when the electricity passes between the nerves, or something in the likes, he can control it so that it actually takes out the shock to ignite that nitroglycerin to create the explosion. And then Deku could learn to actually create that. And basically his body would be able to do it. With some trials and error to be able to do it. Another thing Deku can do is actually afterward take the comprehension of multiple different quirks and then mixing some pieces of that to create a different effect of it. This is basically Deku's quirk. Well, what he thinks is a quirk. Now, the second part of this what if, which is actually the one that took the longest time to actually make, which you'll understand why. Actually, this was taken after a massive amount of consideration, and afterwards someone on Discord, not even a month or so ago, or a bit over a month ago, or 2, maybe 3, basically said, what if My Hero Academia was connected to some other world? That was already an idea I had for the series, but I didn't know how to make it. How to make it work, because I didn't want it to just be, he's connected to those anime world, where, he's going to get their powers completely, and then go back and basically become the strongest being. Obviously, yes, he's going to be one of the strongest being in his universe, but basically, I want more connections to it. I want stuff to basically make sense. So I chose 3 anime worlds where he's going to be able to go and actually learn, but also created 3 other worlds, which are, I took 3 worlds from animes and I created 3 worlds myself with the help of other people, where he's going to basically, over time, learn those powers. And the way those worlds are connected is actually something that Deku's going to find. And actually, the first time he's going to get his power, which is to learn the power of others, is actually going to be when he actually gets, well, the way to travel between worlds. Which I basically just decided to, well, I'm not the one who chose that name, but it was on consensus between the 5 of us, me and the 4 others. Someone gave the idea of a nexus key. So basically, for those that don't know what a nexus is, it's basically like, the connection between multiple worlds and stuff like that, if I remember correctly. And basically, Deku would have a key that accesses multiple different worlds. So basically, this key was used by an ancient civilization. Actually, that I gave the idea also on Discord after the other guy asked for a way to connect those worlds. Didn't give the name of Nexus Key since that came only like 3 weeks ago. Like I said, this thing took a long time to make. But yeah, basically, a Nexus Key is used by an ancient civilization that basically went to different universes in the multiverse, and also could go to something called, well, they could actually pass between other multiverse. Basically, think of it like, let's say, how our galaxy works. One planet is a universe. The multiverse is basically the solar system. That multiverse is basically what everyone knows about that when they are in the confine, and if they know about the rest. But for them, they basically think that's the maximum. Like, there's nothing else beyond that multiverse. But that race found a way to actually pass further than that and basically go and connect those multiverses together. To basically pass through them. And yeah, at one point they basically disappeared. Some of the tech is still around in some of the universes they went to, but those tech are basically locked with a limitation. So Deku, the Nexus Key he found, was the connection between 7 universes. You're going to see them over time, so obviously that's going to be something. But yeah, so Deku won't know about that race until like one of the last world he's going to go to at one point, which is one of the ones I created. But yeah, basically for a while he's just going to think that it's something that he found that allows him to go just to other places. He's going to understand that, it's not my world, but he won't know the half of it until a long time ago. A long time later, I mean. So, basically, Deku's going to be pretty powerful, but that also means that, since he can go to other worlds, what do you think would happen if someone else who had a Nexus Key that was connected to his world decided to go there to do something evil? He would basically be the one to stop them. And that's going to be basically the point of the story. First of all, the My Hero Academia universe is... Well, how the Nexus Key works is actually that, between worlds, how it does is connect to a specific point. Like, all the worlds normally keep going at the same speed, or some go faster, slower, or whatever. But with the Nexus Key, if you leave a world at a specific time and go to the next one, when you're going back to the previous one, the time is going to be the exact same time as which you left. Well, depending on how you use it. Deku's basically going to be locked in that mode for a long time. So whenever he leaves My Hero Academia to go to another world, he's going to come back like a few minutes later or a few hours later, depending on the amount of time he spent in the other world. And when he leaves that world, and that he comes back to My Hero Academia, that world's also going to, well, for his perspective, basically slow down to a crawl. So, let's say he decides to go to... I'll just use one of the worlds that he actually won't go to, since, like I said, only 3 animes that I choose to give him. Let's just say One Piece. If he spends 1 year in One Piece, obviously time in his world will have advanced, but his body won't have changed that much. Like, he's going to still go at the same speed that's in My Hero Academia. So, basically, when he comes back, even though an entire year has passed in One Piece, in his world, it's only going to be around a day or 2. Then, if he goes back to One Piece, like, a year later, it's basically going to have done the same thing, only a year or 2, only a day or 2 afterward. Well, after he left. So that's one of the points, that the Nexus Key basically doesn't just move you in space, it also moves you kind of in time. Which Deku will understand after a while, but once again, that's later in the story. Basically, this is part 0, where I'm going to explain a huge amount of things for this series, because if not, a lot of things will not make sense, and it's really going to be annoying for some of you. Obviously, not all of you. Some of you will think that, oh, I'm just telling you all of the mysteries, but no, don't worry. But yeah, basically... After that, if Deku goes from My Hero Academia to One Piece, and that then he decides to go to another world, the time dilation is actually going to stay the same. So, he goes to One Piece, he stays there a year, 2 days pass in his world. He goes to another world. This time I won't give an example, because whatever. And he passes a year there. In My Hero Academia, 2 days will have passed, but in his world, also only 2 days will have passed. Then he can go to My Hero Academia, and only 4 days will have passed for people there, while he will have stayed 2 years away. Basically, meaning that no matter where he goes, or how many times he passes, or how he passes through the worlds, My Hero Academia will always have the same time dilation, no matter where he goes or how many other worlds he goes by before going back to My Hero Academia. Basically, same thing for all of the worlds. Basically meaning that he can stay a long time in any world and come back nearly instantly to his world, with people just seeing him get stronger. Basically, and get more power. Which, this is one of the things that I will say at one point. Actually, no, I think I should actually say it right now. Since if not, I'm pretty sure someone's just going to puzzle himself until I say it. But basically, how they will see it is Deku saying that, well, his ability is... Well, his quirk is called Learn. And basically, that he has... Well, no, he will... Okay, let me try again. He will say that he has 2 quirks. The first one is Learn, allowing and basically showing it to other people by copying the quirks of other people. Basically showing that, oh yeah, if he understands it on how it works, like, biologically. Like, example, Aizawa, In his eyes, when he uses his quirk to look at someone and cut their quirks, it's basically that in his eyes, it does... Well, that's how it... I'm going to explain it in this story since, yes, he will have Aizawa's quirk. When he looks at someone's, he basically locks in place the gene that allows their quirk to function. For how Deku sees it, is that, so basically for him it's, oh, I need to have contact, a visual contact with someone that will send a type of radiation or something, I don't know what it is precisely, that forcefully closes the quirk of someone as long as he keeps an eye on them, or as long as he doesn't close his eyes. So basically that's how Deku sees it, that's how he explains it, and finds a way to use it like that with trials and error in seeing how he can work it out. Just like how at one point he'll be able to combine some parts of quirks to create something new. Well, parts of powers, I should say more, since he won't just have quirks. But yeah, basically taking pieces of powers, like, oh yeah, that functions like that, I take this part from this power, I work it out together, and basically combines the ability to sweat something different from Bakugo with, let's just say, Shigaraki's decay quirk, and basically making it so that Deku can release a type of sweat that decays everything it touches. Basically, he could do something like that. Then, as more power he gets and the more understanding he has of his power, he will be able to push it to an extent that is way beyond understanding for most people. So that's how Deku's power will work. Then for for his second quirk, from how he'll explain it, is the ability to go into something that's like another world where he can learn more powers, where time is different from here, so that I can always go there and only have a small amount of time passes here while I train there. Basically explaining it like, oh, I create a zone where different powers that I can choose what they are will appear. Basically giving that explanation with a time dilation to basically give the idea that, oh yeah, I have two quirks that basically make me near unkillable and allows me to grow near infinitely. That's how it will be shown. Basically making everyone else just see him as this kid who has the most powerful quirk and basically be the best possible target for All For One, since obviously if he had that power, well, those powers, it would basically render him, well, the most powerful, well, no matter what, because All Might couldn't keep up with that. Or the next user in One For All, I should say more. Sorry about that. But yeah. So now, let's start the what if. After all of that explanation for why it actually works. So, after 20 minutes of explaining, we can finally start. Okay, so Deku is born, well, just like usual, quirkless. Which the place where it will change is at around 3. So basically, people will never have seen him as quirkless. When he is 3, he is actually playing in a park. And a tree that was very, very, very old was basically cut like that morning. But because of quirks and stuff, basically compared to in our world, where if we do that, well, there's going to be tape and stuff around to make people not go close. But basically, because of quirks, they didn't do that, or they just forgot to put it, making Deku basically interested in the hole where the stump was taken out of. And what Deku saw under that, well, in that hole, was actually something glowing. Basically, it was during a day at the park with their school or whatever, where basically, basically Deku just kind of saw a hole and just went to look at it. So basically did just what a kid would do, look at a fucking hole. Since they never seem to have a danger perception, so yeah. Basically, Deku went down into the hole, which was a big hole since the tree was basically almost 1,000 years old. Since, yes, some trees can actually live that long, depending on where they are. Yeah, not 1,500 years old. But yeah, basically, in the middle of a park, that happened. Yeah, that's basically one of the only thing that I wasn't able to just kind of think straight about. Like, I wanted it to be found in a place where Deku could realistically find it. Where, oh yeah, something old left it there. 500 years ago, quirks didn't exist. Oh, if that tree was never moved from there and that, oh, the day that at one point the tree was planted there, obviously, nobody would have found that box if around that time someone basically led that thing there. So that's basically what happened for Deku to actually find it. The box is actually, well, the form it has is what is it called? Basically spherical, but with plates all over it, which are hexagonal. No, pentagonal. Sorry. No, hexagonal. 6 side. Yeah, I think that's it. Basically, it's a box made fully of, well, that, because I fucking forgot the name again. Which kind of had a single light glowing on it. Though when Deku had found it, a teacher found him, saw the box, tried to open it. When it didn't work, basically let Deku keep it. So basically over time, that day stuff happened, Deku just brought it back home. And that night basically kept trying to find a way to either open it or break it open, since he's a kid. And it looks weird. He doesn't know what it is, and basically just tries to open it. And when it happens is actually quite late. He's supposed to be asleep, his mom already put him to bed, but because of the light that started blinking again, Deku basically went back to the box trying to open it. And at around, well, just about midnight, Inko heard sounds, went in. Deku was able to open the box not long before she arrived. There was a glove in it, which he put over his hand. And the moment Inko opened the door, all she saw was suddenly a light taking Deku away. Basically coming straight from his body, since the box was now further away. Basically, he was standing in the middle of his room, put the glove on while not looking towards the door, so all Inko saw was Deku standing and suddenly not there anymore. Basically a massive flash of light that even people outside basically saw through the windows of the entire house because of how bright it was. Some people went to see what was happening. They found Inko crying, trying to call someone, basically asking what was going on, being told that her son basically just vanished in a flash of light. Obviously, people thinking, oh shit, he activated his quirk and now we don't know where he could be. Which is where we catch up with Deku. Which, basically, where he is right now is not in another world. He's in the interface. Basically, the place where where the ancient civilization basically called the Nexus Gates. In that, what you have is basically a ball around yourself with doors to every other world that are connected. Right now, all Deku sees though is 7 doors, with one that is right under him. Each door is exactly the same, except with one small difference. A number on them. And believe me, those numbers are high. Because the Nexus... bleh. I'll just call it the Nexus Point. Since for some fucking reason, I'm not able to say Nexus World. Basically, Nexus Zone, I mean. Basically, that's where he is right now, with the Nexus doors around him. The numbers of doors that are there are basically for every single universes that were connected to each other by that ancient civilization. Though what Deku sees right now is only the 7 that he can open because of the limits that were put on the one he has right now. The one right under him, the number on it, is 1.873E. So for anyone who actually knows what this means, this is big, right? Basically, if Deku concentrates on the door, he can see the entire number just kind of flash through his vision. But yeah, basically, well, no. That was the first version I wanted to do, but someone told me to do it differently. 1.87, whatever, 1.873 with a small 10 to the, I think the number was like 60 or something. No. Sorry, I forgot basically the small page that I keep, like, the precise stuff on at home. But yeah, it's like a huge number that's, like, when I asked, okay, what would it be if we said that, oh, that's what he see, basically the 1.8 whatever E. But they told me that, oh, to make it easier with maths, since even computers sometimes don't actually make it correctly with the E, they basically told me, oh yeah, put it to the 10th power of 10th power of whatever, to basically show a massive number. And basically there's like 10, there's 310, like, in smaller numbers, which basically what those are for those who aren't there yet in math. You have your number, which normally is 1 point something, or whatever that the first number is, with, let's say, a 2. So, like, example of that, 33 And then at the end, you have a small number at the top, which is like 4. What you do is take your number, multiply it by itself, then multiply the result by itself again, and multiply that result by itself again. That's the number you get. That's how you calculate that. So now think 1.87, I don't remember the last one, with 10 to the 10 to the 10. That number basically becomes so huge that the doors that he sees are basically counted not in, like, I don't even think it's in billions by this point. Like, it's way too big. And once again, like I said, if he concentrates on the door, basically in his vision, he basically sees the full number, which is way too huge. Obviously, that's the way that, well, that's how it works, which means that it's a good thing that he only has access to 7 worlds, obviously, since he won't remember the entire number and he would be lost forever. But yeah, basically, each and every world is basically at the digit of when they were found. So, the bigger the number, the further it was when it was found. And if you found the door with the number 1, well, it's basically their home world, the first world they ever went, well, the world they came from. But yeah, Deku only has stuff that are like over in the billions, so that'll never happen for him. Until he actually unlocks more. Yeah, no, that's something I haven't decided more, if at one point he's actually going to unlock more. Because from how I see it, there's 3 ways it could go. But I haven't chosen that yet. One, he just has those 7 until the end, where he just goes back from time to time to the others to train more, to get more strength, whatever. 2, at one point he stops going to the other worlds and basically gives the Nexus key to someone else, just like, let's say, One for All, basically passing it to another generation, while he, depending on the power he gets, does other things. Or lastly, he unlocks more and actually leaves his world forever, basically. So, those are basically the way this series could go. But obviously, if I do the last one, it would go on forever. So, yeah, I don't know how I'm going to continue this series at one point. But it's going to be long. Basically, now let's go back to where we were. Deku sees each and every door, and all he's thinking about is that he's scared. Until he suddenly hears something that he doesn't understand, basically in a language he never heard of before. What he heard, if we translate it, is program updated. DNA scan complete. Upgrading software for the user. Software complete. User state weak. Finding power source. Power source uploaded. And then the door under Deku basically opening back up and sucking him in. Basically, in his world, only like 2, well, basically, while he's in the Nexus zone, looking at the Nexus doors, that spot normally goes by, like, all the other worlds are basically frozen for him. It goes at a speed that is way too fast. But this time, it was basically synchronized with Deku's world for basically while it was updating the software of the glove to basically adapt to Deku. Since basically how the doors are made are like the user see doors. So Deku, a human, see a wooden or a metal door that you open with a while turning the handle to go in, while other races could see a door as something different, or if an animal had it, just a hole. So basically that's how it works. So for the time that it was updating the software to Deku's mental, basically the time was synchronized, as well as while it was trying to, uploading in Deku the power, which is called learning. Also, at the same time, it basically learned Deku's language to also be able to make it so that in different worlds that he's going to go, or actually even in his world, if a speech or a species has a language and that race is intelligent, Deku is actually going to automatically translate everything in his mind. Basically meaning that even if someone talks English to him while he's talking Japanese, he's going to understand it and he's going to be able to speak it. Basically allowing him to speak in each and every world he's going to go without having any problems. Which was why for when he came back, it was basically a few hours later. With Deku basically having not understood anything, and actually because of when the software were being updated and downloaded, he was unconscious. Basically when it entered, when he entered, every time the voice was speaking, he was conscious, but while it wasn't speaking, he was unconscious while it was learning. So for him, it was just a continued speech that lasted like 2 minutes. A few seconds, like 30 or something seconds. But in reality, it was a few hours that he stayed there, with his body, his mind going blank while something was updating, then coming back up while something else was being arranged, then him going back down and doing that. So now he's back in his world and the glove disappeared. It's still there, kind of, but basically when it actually scanned Deku's DNA, what it did was actually modified something that would be more useful to him, since what the glove was, how he found it before putting it on, it actually had 6 finger holes and was way too big for him. What it became is actually kind of like a bracelet, more or less, that people can see it, but it just looks like it's growing out of his skin. Basically, them and him as well for a long time, even when he's going to go to the other worlds for a while, he's only going to think that, it's his quirk. The glove didn't have anything to do with it, or the glove that he put on was basically just his body absorbed it. He's basically going to think of it like that and think he only has one quirk, but puts his, second power as a second quirk. Because obviously for everyone else, you can learn stuff, but you can also go to other worlds? That's not one power! So, yeah. Obviously, it doesn't only work for powers, his ability to learn, it also works for combat abilities and other stuff things he could learn in school. So yeah, Deku's going to be a lot more brainy, let's just say. But yeah, so the next day he didn't go to school, since obviously they wanted to go to the quirk doctor to see. They were seeing the bracelet-looking thing on his arm that literally, no matter what they didn't want to come off. In fact, at one point they even tried to break it, or actually cut it off. But Deku was actually feeling pain through it, basically making them and him, since obviously at 3 years old you won't actually already understand that, oh yeah, that thing was alien and it just latched onto me forever. So basically they see it as, oh, that's his quirk. He has that thing on him. We don't know how it works. And basically, because they saw him they know that Inko saw him just disappear in a flash of light, they tell him not to use it until they find a way to actually do it in a controlled environment. So basically telling him to not use his quirk and to act like quirkless. That's how he hears it as he is a kid. So yeah, mental capacity isn't all there yet, even less at 3 years old. So basically the next day after the day where he didn't go to school, he goes back to school. People ask him what it was about. Basically, they heard that, oh yeah, he might have unlocked his quirk. He basically shows it with a few people just asking him what it is, what it does. With Deku basically saying that, oh, well, when it activated, it actually sent him to a room with different doors. And that when it was actually over, like for him only a few minutes, a few seconds, he was back 2 days, a few hours later. With Bakugo basically telling him that his quirk sounds useless, angering Deku a bit, but obviously the teacher is just saying that maybe it has a good application. Like, oh, maybe he goes there, and if he passes through a door, he gets to somewhere else. But that as long as that cannot be tested in a controlled environment, explaining it in kids' terms to basically not just sound like they are telling them, oh yeah, he could disappear if we don't do it correctly. Basically trying not to say it like that, but saying until they're able to actually track where he goes, it would be better to not try it. Deku still kind of bugged about that later. When at home, at night, he basically looks at the bracelet, thinks of going back to the White Room, and sending him there. This time, he didn't hear anything while there, since literally the only reason it was talking to him was because it needed to upload everything. Deku was looking at the doors and basically seeing numbers that were way, way high that he never had heard of. And basically goes back, thinking that, yeah, it's useless. Basically staying there a few minutes, but this time when he came out, he saw that the time on his clock, like, the needle had only moved by two notches. Like the second, the needle that points seconds, basically only moved by 2 notches. Basically saying that, oh yeah, I was only gone for not even a second, since he had looked at it, thought about going to the White Room while stopping looking at it, When he came back, he directly looked at it, so only a second had passed. With this time, no big flash happening, so yeah, for him, he just thought, oh, well, that's nice. And basically, afterward, for around a year, only using that specific aspect to basically augment his time of play, or once even just sleeping longer. Basically, or even sometimes doing his homework, basically staying there for a long time, while no time were passing in his world. Since the technology doesn't actually have a mind, and literally doesn't even have a processing unit that can actually think of it as dumb, it literally doesn't matter for it. Like, it's literally just made to go through different worlds, so it doesn't matter. So Deku basically does that for an entire year, with at one point actually explaining it to a teacher when when a teacher basically saw at one point Deku just flash, like, not even in the time it takes to blink, Deku had disappeared and reappeared. The teacher asking him what he just did, with Deku finally understanding that, oh, he actually disappears from the world when he does that. Like, even if it's just for a single moment. So people can still see him disappear while he's still there once he come back. Basically, they were doing a test, and, well, not really a test since they're 4 years old, but more like they were ready to go do some work, and basically Deku decided to just do it instantly, but, well, thinking of it completely while there without actually doing any work on the paper, like bringing it with him, but to not seem suspicious, he didn't do any work. But since the teacher still saw it, basically Deku had to explain it and he explained that no matter how long he spent there, he basically comes back at the exact same time. So what he was doing was basically just doing his work there. So like, oh, when he gets back home, he actually uses it to do his homeworks and stuff, or to play longer or to sleep longer. With the teacher telling him that he shouldn't actually be using his quirk in school, even less to do that, since it's basically cheating. Being a bit mad at Deku, and then that being explained to his mother. Inko basically understanding why sometimes Deku basically just looked like he was more energetic a few seconds earlier, or and then just exhausted, or the opposite, being exhausted at 1 second and the next being completely energized. So basically they understood that while he's there, time doesn't pass for him. Well, for them compared to him. And from how they understood it, he spent so much time in there that if his body was actually changing as well, they would have seen the changes. Well, obviously, the only things that still grow the same, like his body will still go at the same speed as his will, but stuff like hunger, hair growth, stuff like that still go by at the same speed. It's just his aging that is altered. So basically, that's why all they were seeing grow faster was his hair, which they had questioned it a few times, and Inko finally learned why it was happening. Basically going to the quirk doctor, and Then finally telling him that, okay, they want him to test out one of the doors. Basically go through one of the doors and then try to come back to the one that his world, well, where he came from. So this one. Basically telling Deku to try and mark them with marks or something, because Deku explained to them the number thing on the doors. And they saw that, oh shit, it's way too big. And since when he doesn't try to look at the exact number, which is way too long, they all seems like the exact same number. Deku basically just doesn't know which door is which is why he never went to another door. So this time they tried to tell him to mark the doors with something like markers or something to identify them with colors. Basically send him in, and for the first time he goes through one of the doors, going back out straight away, and seeing that the colors he had put on the doors actually disappeared, and that he doesn't know which door is which now, and that the door under him was the door he came out of. So he tried them one by one, until at one point he was actually able to go back to his world, with about 300 attempts, basically being way unlucky. Since obviously, every time he goes into a door and comes out, he doesn't know which door is which, since the door that was under him is now into the doors that were above, and the door that's now under him is the door he went through. So he doesn't know which door is which. At one point he ended up on a beach, at another he ended up literally in the middle of the different places he ended up to. Yeah, also, not 330 tries. I'm not going to be evil to Deku at least. But yeah, it took a few tries, 30. But yeah, the areas he ended up in, which he told the others, is a beach, the top of a mountain, which he couldn't actually see down because it was extremely cold. And when he looked down to one of the side, all he could do was see clouds. Another one, he was actually in the middle of an ocean, like swimming in the middle of the ocean, completely wet, without anything on the horizon. Fifth is basically just in the middle of a desert-looking place and cannot see anything around him either. Fifth place is actually right between a forest and a plain-looking area, which once again wasn't the doctor's office he was in, so he went back. The sixth and last place actually looked like it was close to a city, but when he was looking at it, the people that were there all looked like they were half animal, half humans, basically telling him that, yeah, no, that's not the place. And on the 30th try, finally coming back to the office, the doctor's office, where his mother was waiting for him with the doctor. For them, it only took a few seconds. And basically, they saw Deku wet with sand on him, as well as a lot of scrapes. Basically asking him what was going on, and him explaining that he cannot put colors on the door because every time he goes through another door and comes back, they are there. Then he tells where he basically appeared. Obviously, the whole 5 first, they just thought that, oh, he appeared somewhere on Earth. With the last one, basically them thinking that he appeared next to a city where most people that he could see from afar were people with animal quirks. Obviously, they didn't know where any of those were, and basically telling him that until they're able to find a way to identify where he is exactly, he should be careful. So yeah, he went to each of those worlds at least once. With obviously the last one you hearing what I said, being the only place where he actually saw people, with them looking like beastmans. So yeah, that's one of the clues for one of the worlds. Also, no, the place where he was in the middle of an ocean isn't One Piece. I already explained that that's not going to be one of those worlds. Sorry about that. So yeah. But obviously, after that, Deku was basically told that if he wants to use his quirk and go to those places, basically after he explains that he always comes back to the exact same place, except once where the one with the plage, the beach, sorry, in French it's called a plage. So I basically just mixed both, which is bad. Let's just say it like that. But yeah, so basically the beach one, Deku had actually made an X where he appeared, moved away by a bit, went back out, because the third time he went there he decided to try that. In that spot, well, in each and every world he went to where he could actually place a marker, he basically did it. And basically, he reappears the exact place where he left. So it doesn't matter how he does it. Well, what he doesn't know is that he actually reappears at a specific marked place. So let's say he was on a moving vehicle. He would stay near that vehicle, or I should say on it or in it, compared to, he's on the boat, he decides to disappear. When he tries to come back, he's in the middle of the ocean. No, he's going to stay on the boat when he comes back, no matter how far it went. Obviously, right now he doesn't know about that specific thing, so he'll be careful until at one point that happens. But yeah, so basically, from how it was said, simply because, if at one point he actually appears where people see him appear and that they try to attack him, it would be best if he can at least defend himself. So they basically told Inko to try and make him, put him in different classes for self-defense or stuff like that. Which is where they actually see that, oh shit, he can learn fast. Every time he is put in a class, let's say the first one he went to was judo, it took him only a few days to actually learn practically everything. Obviously, he's not as good as everyone, as some of the masters, mostly because of the strength difference. But he can do all of the techniques near perfectly already, which actually scared some of them at first, until basically they told Inko that, they can't actually teach him more. All he can do now is increase his strength, which could be dangerous since he's still young, and it could be dangerous for his growth potential. Since if you train a kid from too young and break his bones and muscles enough time with them healing, or even if you with a few times sometimes, it can actually speed up the time it would take for them to normally reach their last size. So basically, over time, your bones grow with you. That's actually them increasing in size. But if you break them and heal them, because of how bone healing works, it basically makes a bigger bone, well, a stronger bone, I mean, in the crack for it to not break again as fast. But over time, if you do that enough, your bone won't be able to actually grow more because it will be hardened too fast. Oh god, I just smelled Megdo. Yeah, sorry, I can't deal with Megdo, so smelling that basically kind of just didn't give me the right scent. Sorry about that. But yeah, basically, they told her that training him is good, but as long as he doesn't push himself too far, so that he doesn't stop his growth. So she sent Deku to more classes for different martial arts and stuff like that, where even his school basically learned that he was doing that. And in not even a year, every place that she could think of sending him were actually telling her that he learned everything too fast. At one point, she basically just put him in sports to basically help him just learn to control his strength as well, because she also sent him to places where it's specifically to train his strength. Because of how his quirk works, they basically understood that, oh yeah, that can be basically helpful for him. Basically, since they now think that his ability to learn that fast is also a quirk, just like his ability to teleport, basically. Well, since that's what they think it is. And so they basically just keep that going. For an entire year, basically, he learned different martial arts and basically went for some little league sports. Basically, just for him to learn to control his strength and learn how to move his body to be faster and whatever. Basically, when Mitsuki heard that Deku was doing that, she had after Bakugo unlocked his quirk and was thinking himself highly, she basically placed him at the same place as Deku went for him to learn. Well, basically she only placed him in one of the martial arts class, and then in the same place where he is for sports, which taught Bakugo to be humble as all fuck, because no matter what he did, Deku was better, simply because of how fast he could learn. In fact, at one point when Bakugo's quirk was explained, Deku actually thought, oh, that sounds interesting, and basically went to his Nexus zone, which he basically just calls it the door world at that point. Since by this point he doesn't actually go to the other worlds yet to train, which he's going to learn is going to be useful in a bit. Because while in that world, he was basically just doing it to do homeworks. He had brought himself food and basically decided to just stay there for a few days just to kind of relax and do stuff, since now they're 5 or around 5, and basically non-stop for him it was just sports and stuff like that, so he wanted to take a few days off. And at one point, he started to think that he learned all of those things. Wouldn't it be nice if he could copy Bakugo's power? Basically laughing to himself and trying to think back on how Bakugo explained it. So, Bakugo being able to create from his palms, from his sweat glands, something that is closer to a liquid explosive. And then from a spark or something like that, able to ignite it. So, Deku basically tried to learn about that. Came back to his world, basically did some research to what is nitroglycerin. Basically seeing the chemical composition, looking for what is a sweat gland and how it works, and then trying to find a way on how he could make a spark with his hand. Basically seeing the nerves all around your body uses electricity, an extremely small amount of it. Basically bringing all his research with him, and then while in the Nexus Zone, trying to copy that with his body after, basically for him it was like, literally, how I'm going to explain it, you will understand how long it took him. It took him 2 months without coming out of the Nexus Point except for eating and stuff. Basically going in for a few days with food, coming back out, going to school 1 or 2 days, doing everything else, going back for a few days. And it took him, while in the Nexus Point, in the Nexus Zone, 2 entire months. He was also training that outside, just to make you understand that, it took him a long time until at one point he was outside with Bakugo and a few others talking, with a teacher actually explaining to the class why Deku was strong. Basically, after they were playing outside, Deku accidentally threw a ball way too strong, with her saying that he learns fast and that his body is actually growing faster than them. Bakugo saying that, he doesn't have our quirks, with Deku just saying, I've been trying. Fucking hell! Sorry. He should not have been going that fast on this road. Okay, going back to the story. Basically, Bakugo putting his hand towards Deku and doing it, with Deku saying he's been trying, and finally, he was able to do some small sparks, and basically showing that, for the first time outside, that he's been trying and he's learned how to do it, making nearly everyone just look at him like, wait, what? With his mom being called and directly being sent to the quirk doctor once again. With them basically trying to understand what happened, and basically asking Deku to explain what he did. Basically, Bakugo and Mitsuki were also there because they want to understand as well. Well, mostly Bakugo. And Deku explaining that, he was going to the door world and basically did research on stuff like nitroglycerin, sweat glands, stuff like that. Because Bakugo told him that he would never be able to learn how to do explosions like him. And then explaining the entire process of 2 months to them on how he was basically trying to work out the kinks, and basically over the 2 months period just kind of I'm able to sweat something different, but it doesn't seem like the right thing. oh, now I can make it like do fire, but it's not an explosion. And basically them hearing Deku explain that he was able to do research to copy the quirk of someone else, with the doctors actually being amazed, because that means his quirk that allows him to go to another world to that other place is useful, first. But secondly, that his ability to learn isn't just limited to what is physically normal. He can literally learn to copy quirks, which actually launched a little thing for Deku, which was actually the quirk doctors giving him enough food to last for a few months, basically telling him, oh god, that was a turtle. Yeah, I just passed next to a small ponds where massive turtle lives, and they do that when someone passes next to them, since obviously they're kind of afraid of people. So yeah, I just wasn't ready for that. But yeah, basically, explaining the quirk of someone else to Deku, like explaining a healing quirk to Deku from someone that actually works in the office, in the doctor office. Also explaining how his mother's quirk work in scientific terms. So for the healing quirk, basically multiplying the cells while using the cells that don't have a definite spot yet, to basically create more skin, bones, stuff like that, to regrow entire limbs, which basically Deku learned to do after a while. Also for his mom's quirk, also took a long time. Basically, they were testing that in a controlled environment, telling him not to use any doors while doing that, and to basically bring some food, water, come back out, go to the bathroom, and get more food and water. Come out to play as well, because to not just do that, since obviously it could be bad for him. And basically him learning how to use his mother's quirk and how to regenerate. Basically right now he can do small cuts on himself and heal in a few seconds. He never tried to cut an entire arm off, a hand off or something like that, because obviously that's a lot worse. Though he also learned by himself, without actually copying a quirk, how to cut off his pain receptors. So basically over time of trying to cut himself to actually learn to heal, he was near constantly hurting himself, which was making him afraid, until one point where he actually learned by himself, without actually copying someone else, how to completely block the nerve receptors, basically showing them that it's not just limited to copying other people. Basically telling him to try and do that by himself, how he can from time to time, to basically not lose touch with it, but not do it too often, not to lose touch with reality. But yeah, basically the next time he went back to school, basically people learned that, he can copy quirks after learning them, and people actually trying to see if Deku can learn to use their quirks, which will take a while. But yeah, for now he never actually goes to the other worlds, simply by fear about the numbers, until when he is I just realized that I'm already almost home. So yeah, that was part 0. If you think this deku is going to be way too strong, no. Well, for My Hero Academia, he might be. But even in the worlds he's going to go, well, specifically in the 3 worlds I created, oh yeah, believe me, he's not going to be that strong at first. And even then, when other worlds are going to be connected, like people coming from other worlds to My Hero Academia or world where he is able to go, he will have to push himself further. But yeah, last thing I wanted to say is that at one point he's actually, well, around age 8, he actually found out for the first time that the last digit on each door is actually different. An 8 for his own world, a 6 for another, a 1 for another, a 9 for another, a 4 for another, and you get the point. So basically for Deku, that's how he's now going to actually be able to know which world he's going to. Though he still thinks it's just different places around Earth. So, yeah. Basically, he finally learned that at age 8. That, oh, I can actually differentiate between the doors. The last digit. Which he basically wrote at one point on his, well, basically on his bracelet. Basically, he placed the numbers and they're staying there, not changing. But yeah, that's the last thing I wanted to say. Hope you liked it, leave a like if you did. If you have any questions or comment, put them in the comment section. I'm going to try and answer questions. My Discord is going to be in the description, so yeah. Stop if you want to, not to. Out.